Slides are visible, right? Yes. Gaurav, slides are visible, right? Hello. Suraj?
Yes,
Suraj,
ma'am.
okay.
Visible.
It's visible, right? Okay, I'll start. Good afternoon. Today I'm going to start the new chapter called as decision table based testing. So in the last class, I completed equivalence class testing, and the next chapter is decision table based testing. So this chapter is also there in module 2. So in module 2 from textbook 1, 4 chapters were there, right? So first 3 I have already completed, and this is the last chapter in second module, and other 2 chapters are taken from the second textbook. So first I'll complete this, then I'll move on to the module 3. Okay, once I'll complete those things, then I'll come back to the second textbook. Okay, is it okay? Okay, I'll start with the decision table based testing. So in this chapter, you are going to study about what are decision tables and what are the different strategies available for decision table based testing. Then we'll consider the examples of a triangle problem, next state function problem, and the commission problem, and we'll see how we can write the test cases for the decision table based testing. So first, you need to know. What are the decision table methods. So here the testing methods are based on the decision tables, which are the most important because of their strong logical basis. So the decision tables, so many in the previous semesters you have already studied how to construct the decision tables. Like when you are studying in the ADE, you have constructed the truth table, right? Truth table, and that is also called as the decision table. There you are representing it as either in terms of zeros and ones or true or false, right? Nenpidiya. So if you are using 0 and 1, then it indicates 0 indicates it's false and 1 indicates it's a true. Or directly we can use the character T or F to indicate the true and false conditions. So whenever you are using that and constructing the tables, and such type of tables are said to be decision tables. So previously two methods were used in the decision table method. One is the cause and effect graphing, and the third one is the decision table method. But here we are not discussing about those methods. We are directly concentrating on construction of the decision tables and what the decision table consisting of. And next we'll move on to the examples. So we'll see what are the decision tables. So decision tables are used to represent and analyze the complex logical relationships. And these decision tables are used from the early 1960s. Okay, from the early 1960s, tables are started using for analyzing and representing the complex logical relationships. First, we'll see what the decision table is and how it can be constructed. So here, if you consider this example, this is called as the decision table. It consisting of four parts, and the leftmost part is called as the stub part. Okay, the leftmost is called as the left stub part, and after that these are called as the condition part. Okay, stub part and the entries for the step part and the conditions as well as the actions. Okay, so here we have the four parts here. First one is called as the stub part or the stub portion, and to the right is called as the entry portion. And the below the stub part we have the conditions as well as the actions. Conditions represents whether they are the true or false. Based on the true or false conditions, we are getting the actions. Our actions here, they are also called as the outputs. Understood? So here we are constructing the decision table by using the true and false condition, and it consisting of some set of rules: rule 1, rule 2, rule 3, etc., rule 4, rule 5, 6, 7, 8, etc. So the leftmost part is called the stub part and the right part is called as the entry part, or we are entering the values for the stub part. And below the stub we have the two parts. One is the condition part and the other one is the action part. Condition part is represented by C and action part is represented by A. So based on the conditions C1 and C2 and C3, we are going to get the outputs or the actions. Actions here they are also called as the outputs. Okay. So based on the conditions, we have the outputs A1, A2, A3 and A4. Let me see this example. Okay. So here we have constructed one decision table which consisting of set of rules and the step part. Step part consisting of 3 conditions and 4 actions. So first we'll see the rule 1. What the rule 1 says? Rule 1 says that if C1, C2, C3, all three are true, then the output or the actions A1 and A2 occurs. Understood? Clear? Here it is given, right? A condition entries is over, right? So here, see here. When conditions C1, C2 and C3 are all true, actions A1 and A2 occur. See here. So actions are represented by the don't care conditions. Here, these X are nothing but the don't care conditions. Clear? Okay. And actions, conditions are represented either as true or false. So for the rule 1, if C1, C2 and C3, all three are true, then the actions A1 and A2 occur. And for rule 2, if C1 and C2 are true and C3 is false, then action A1 and A3 occurs. And for the rule conditions C1 and C2, you come afterwards. I'm having the class. For rules 3 and 4, if the condition C1 is true and C2 is false, and if C3 is don't care condition, then the action A4 occurs. Similarly, it is defined for rule 5, rule 6, rules 7 and 8. Rule 5 says that if C1 is false, C2 and C3 are true, then the conditions actions A1 and A3 occur. Similarly, the rule 6 says if C1 and C3 are false and C2 is true, then the condition A2 occurs. Similarly, for rules 7 and 8, if C1 and C2 are false and C3 is don't care condition, then the action A4 occurs. So here, when we are representing it by the don't care conditions, it is having the two interpretations. Okay, it is having the two major interpretation, and this says that the condition is irrelevant or the condition does not apply. Understood? When we are representing the condition by a don't care. See here, it is not there, right? Don't care condition, then it indicates that the condition is irrelevant. Condition is irrelevant or the condition does not apply. Such type of conditions are represented by don't care conditions. Understood? Any doubt in this decision table? So decision table is nothing but simply the construction of a table which consisting of the stub part and the entry part. So in the entry part, we have the set of rules that we are defining, and the stub part consisting of the conditions and the actions. C represents the condition, A represents the actions. Actions are nothing but the outputs here. Okay, these things I explained, right? So for the entry for C3 is the rule where the false and the C3 is a don't care. See here, for rules 3, 4, C1 is true, C2 is false, and the C3 is don't care condition. And for rules 7 and 8, C1, C2 are false, and C3 is don't care condition. Then what is the meaning of this? That I said the condition is irrelevant or the condition does not apply. So even in sometimes not applicable, n/a symbol is used for this interpretation. Instead of using the don't care or irrelevant or does not apply condition, we can use the symbol n/a that is also representing the don't care condition, and it says that that condition is irrelevant or the condition does not apply. So as I said, in some of the decision tables, either we will use the yes or no conditions or 0/1. See here, here we use the T or F to indicate the true or false. And in some decision tables, we are using Y for true and N for false condition, means yes or no condition is used, or 0 and 1 is used to indicate the false and true condition. 0 indicates the false and 1 indicates the true condition. Okay, so instead of, it is not necessary that either you have to use only the T or F. We can use either the true yes or no condition, or 0/R is used. So these are used in the condition portion of a decision table in the truth table. So when we're using the zeros and ones, these are nothing but the binary conditions, right? 0 and 1 are the binary conditions. And if you're using the decision, if you're using these in the decision table to represent the conditions, then such type of tables are said to be limited entry decision tables. Limited entry decision tables, LEDTs, are nothing but limited entry decision tables. So in the limited entry decision tables, we are using zeros and ones to represent the conditions in the decision tables. So if conditions are allowed to have several values, then the resulting tables are called extended entry decision tables. Means instead of only having 0, 1 or yes or no or true false conditions, if conditions are allowed to have more values or more than two values or the several values, then the decision tables are said to be extended entry decision tables. Understood? Any doubt in this, in the decision table? Yes, Sharanya?
No.
Gaurav? Okay, understood, right? How to construct the decision table. It's simple one. Okay. So next we'll see the decision table techniques. So to identify the test cases with the decision tables, we are interpreting the conditions as inputs and actions as outputs. Means see here we have the conditions and the actions, right? Then for the interpretation or for the analysis, we are representing the condition as inputs and actions as the outputs. See here, to interpret the condition. So to identify the test cases with in the decision tables, we are interpreting the conditions, that is C1, C2, C3 as the inputs and actions as the outputs, where actions are nothing but the A1, A2, A3 and A4 that we are representing as outputs. Next, sometimes conditions are end up with referring to equivalence classes of inputs and actions refer to major functional processing portion of the item tested. See here, we have the condition and actions, right, in the decision table, where the conditions are referring to the equivalence classes of the inputs and the actions are referring to the functional processing portion of the item that is tested. Then the rules that we are defined in the decision table are said to be the test cases, right? Rule 1, rule 2, rule 3, rule 4, rule 5, 6, 7 and 8. These rules are said to be, it's what they said to be the test cases. Okay, so here we have in the decision table, we have the conditions, actions and the rules. So conditions are represented as the inputs, actions are represented as the outputs, and the rules which are defined from 1 to 8 are interpreted as the test cases. So here we are going to use the several techniques for testing the developed system, and when we are using these test cases to produce the decision tables which are more useful to testers. We'll see one more example. Here we are considering the don't care conditions and impossible rule usage for that condition is defined. So here we are considering the example of a triangle problem, right? You know the triangle problem, it consisting of how many sides? Three sides, A, B, C, right? This example I already explained so many times, right? So when the triangle is said to be a isosceles triangle or the scalene triangle or the equilateral triangle, and the other condition is not a triangle, right? So we are considering the same example. So but in the previous testing methods we are considering the conditions, right? But here in we are constructing the decision table which consisting of the false and the true. Okay, so that we are representing it with T and F, right? So first condition is we are having the ABC values, whether ABC values form a triangle. Okay, there in the previous testing methods we are considering it as forming a triangle as if it is yes, then it will display the messages the triangle can be constructed and what type of triangle that we are going to represent, that was represented in the previous chapters, right? But here we are considering the three sides ABC by using three sides whether these three sides forms the triangle or not. So for that different rules are defined. The first rule says that F indicates that by using the three sides ABC we can't form a triangle, right? F indicates not, it is false, means we can't form a triangle by using the sides A, B and C. Then these conditions C2, C3, C4 are irrelevant. Why? Because just by you, if we are not able to construct the triangle by using ABC, then knowing the value of A or B or C is irrelevant. That's why it is represented with the don't care conditions. For C2, C3, C4, it is a don't care condition. And if ABC is not forming a triangle, then we are outputting the value as not a triangle. Means the ABC values, whatever we have entered, it is not possible to form a triangle and hence the output is not a triangle. Understood? Next we'll go for other type of conditions. So here the first one is the false condition for the C1 and second we'll see the second condition or the second rule. C is ABC, means by using these ABC we can we form a triangle. So it indicates T indicates that yes it is true, means we can form the triangle by using the sides ABC. Then we need to know once the triangle is formed, then we need to know what type of triangle it is, whether it is a equilateral triangle, scalene triangle or the isosceles triangle. You know the conditions for equilateral triangle, scalene triangle and isosceles triangle, right? If all three sides are equal, then it is a equilateral triangle. Otherwise it is depending on the sides, it may be the isosceles triangle or a scalene triangle, right? So first we'll consider the first condition. Here C2, C3 and C4 all three conditions are true, means A is equal to B, A is equal to C and B is equal to C. What it indicates? All the sides are equal. If all the sides are equal, then what type of triangle it is? It is an equilateral triangle. So that is represented here. So three conditions. So first condition is C1 ABC. By using ABC we are forming a triangle. But what type of triangle we are going to construct, that is depending on the value of A, B and C. If all are equal, then we are going to construct the equilateral triangle. So the output of this condition is A4. That is A4 is equilateral. Understood? Okay. If any of the two sides are equal and the third side is not equal, then we say that it's a what type of triangle? Isosceles triangle. Okay. But see here, this condition, you please check it here. For ABC, it is true. Okay, we'll form a triangle, but A is equal to B and A is equal to C. So if both are true, then is it possible B is not equal to C? Is it false? No, it can't be. Why? Because A is equal to B, A is equal to C indicates what? A is equal to B, B is equal to C, right? And if we are representing it as a false, that is condition C4. If we are representing it as a false, then it is impossible. Why that condition is impossible? Because in these two conditions we are already defined that A is equal to B and A is equal to C. Then what it indicates? It indicates that A is equal to B, B is equal to C. But in the fourth condition they are representing it as a false, but that is the impossible condition and that cannot be occur. So for that purpose, it is represented as X. Understood? Similarly, for the next rule, That is, ABC is form a triangle, yes, it forms the triangle, but these two conditions you can see. A is equal to B and A is equal to C, B is equal to C. So from the C2 and C3, C4 conditions, we can verify that if A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then what indicates? Then A is also equal to C. But here it is represented as false. It is impossible because if A is equal to B, B is equal to C, then A is equal to C is false, is impossible condition. That's why it is represented as hex here. So that is the output we are going to get when we are representing it as TFT. Means for C2 it is true, for C3 it is false, and C4 it is true. Next we'll see one more type of triangle where a T one side is A is equal to B, it is true, but A is not equal to C and B is not equal to C. So then we say that it is a isosceles triangle because only AB are equal and C is not equal. And so among three sides, two sides are equal and one more side is not equal, then we say that the triangle is a isosceles triangle. Similarly for this, if A is equal to B, it is a false. Then is A is equal to C or B is equal to C? That condition will never occur. Why? Because if A is equal to B, then A should be equal to C here. A is equal to B means it is not at all equal. False condition. A is not equal to B. Then A is equal to C and B is equal to C cannot occur. Why? Because if A is equal to C, B is equal to C indicates that A is equal to B. But here, for that condition, we are represented it as false. Then if this is false, these two conditions are the impossible conditions, or these two conditions can never occur. So for that, we are representing it as an impossible condition. Next, we'll see one more rule. Here we have A is equal to B and B is equal to C. These two are represented as the false condition, and only A is equal to C means sides A and C are equal, B is not equal. Then if that is the case, then we say that it is a isosceles triangle. Why? Because only two sides of the triangle are equal and the third side is not equal. Then we say that it is a isosceles triangle. Similarly, for the next rule, A is equal to B, A is equal to C. Means if A is equal to B, A is equal to C, then we say that it is a isosceles triangle. Only two sides are equal. Next, if all three conditions are false, means A is not equal to B, A is not equal to C, B is not equal to C, then it indicates that A is not equal to B and B is not equal to C, then it is a scalene triangle. Means none of the sides are equal. If all three sides are not equal, then we say that the triangle is a scalene triangle. So that is represented with the true and false conditions, with the conditions and the outputs are the actions. C1, C2, C3, C4 represents the conditions or the inputs. If these are all the inputs, and what is the corresponding output? Output is represented in the form of actions A1, A2, A3, A4 and A5. Understood? Any doubt in this for the equilateral problem? Sorry, for the triangle problem using the decision table testing method and construction of the test cases. Any doubt, Suraj?
No, ma'am.
Okay, shall I continue? Okay, I'll move on to the refined decision table. See here, we are considering only the whether the sides are equal or not. Along with that, we are having the other conditions like whether A is less than B plus C or B is less than A plus C or C is less than A plus B. So that also we are considering. Here, instead of 4 conditions C1, C2, C3, C4, we have 6 conditions C1, C2, C3, C4, C5 and C6. Here, the 3 conditions C4, C5 and C6 are same as the previous one. Here, these 3 C2, C3, C4, these are same here. C4, C5, C6, but here ABC form a triangle. This condition we are extending or expanding to check whether it satisfies the condition or not. So what are the three conditions here? First condition says that either A is less than A plus B plus C, B is less than A plus C, and C is less than A plus B. So here the first condition is expanded into three subconditions C1, C2 and C3, and the remaining three conditions are same. Okay, so first we'll see the condition C1. So what it indicates, the condition C1 says that whether A is less than B plus C or not. So if it is false, means if one of the condition fails in these three conditions, if one of the condition fails, then directly the program is outputting a output as not a triangle, means we cannot form a triangle if this condition is not satisfied. Okay, and second one is, first condition is true, right? A is less than B plus C, but if B is less than A plus C, if that condition is false, then we cannot form a triangle. And the third one is, if C is less than A plus C, A plus B, then also we can't form a triangle. Right. If one of these three conditions are not satisfied, then it is impossible to construct the triangle, or it is not possible to construct the triangle. Hence, the program will output the message as it is not a triangle. So if it is not a triangle, then no need to check whether what type of triangle it is, because it is not at all possible to construct the triangle. If it is not at all possible to construct the triangle, then there is no need to know about the type of a triangle. Okay, next we'll move on to the other rules. So this rule says that if C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, 6, all 6 conditions are true, then what type of triangle? So first three conditions says that we can construct the triangle, and the remaining three conditions says the type of a triangle. If all three are true, then what it indicates? All sides are equal. If all sides are equal, then it is a what type of triangle? It is a equilateral triangle. Why? Because all three sides are equal. And the next condition is, first three conditions are true, and the in the remaining three, first two are true. If A is equal to B, A is equal to C, then B must be equal to C. If it is false, then that condition will never occur, and that condition cannot be false, and that is hence it is represented as the impossible. Same as this right here. If two conditions are true, then the third one is false, then we cannot have that type of condition, hence it is represented as impossible. So here these are same thing, right? So if among three conditions C4, C5, C6, if two are true and the third one is false, then it is impossible, means that condition will never occur. Similarly for this also, if both are true, single F, then that is not possible. Right. Next, we'll move on to the one more rule where this says that we can form the triangle and all three conditions are satisfied. C1, C2, C3 are satisfied. Then we look into the conditions C5, C6, C4, C5 and C6. Among three, if A is equal to B, what it indicates? Two sides are equal. A is equal to B, then it indicates that it is a isosceles triangle, means two sides are equal and hence it is a isosceles triangle. Similarly, for the next rule, if this is false, means C4 condition is false, A is not equal to B, but A is equal to C and B is equal to C. What it indicates? Two sides of the triangle is equal. Just a minute. If A is equal to B, if A is not equal to B, so F indicates that it is a false. It indicates what? A is not equal to B. If A is not equal to B, then these two conditions will never occur. A is equal to C or B is equal to C. That can't be. Why? Because for the first condition itself, we are representing it as a false, means A is not equal to B. If A is not equal to B, then the remaining two will not occur, and hence it is represented as a impossible one. Similarly, we'll consider the one more rule where first three are true for all the cases. Okay. Next, we'll see FTF, what it indicates? A is equal to B and B is equal to C. Means here these two are false. So false means A is not equal to B and B is not equal to C. But A is equal to C. Right, A is equal to C indicates that two sides are equal and the other side is not equal, and hence it is said to be a isosceles triangle. Next one is here only B is equal to C and A and B are not equal. Okay, so B is equal to C indicates that two sides are equal. B and C are equal, but A is not equal to B or C. Then what type of triangle it is? Isosceles. Why? Because two sides of the triangle are equal. The last rule says that if all three conditions are false, A is not equal to B and A is not equal to C, it indicates that it is a scalene type of triangle because no sides are equal. So in this way we are extending the condition that is defined here for C1. We are here in the first decision table, we are just representing whether by using three sides can we form the triangle or not, right? But that condition is expanded into C1, C2, C3, where A is less than or B is less than or C is less than. Those conditions we are checking. Okay, so this is the refined decision table for triangle problem. Why it is called refined decision table? Because the first condition is expanded into C1, C2 and C3. Is it clear? Understood? Any doubt?
No, ma'am.
Okay, next we'll move on to the decision table for the next date function. Okay, decision table for the next date function. Here we have the conditions and the end. So the leftmost part indicates the step part and the right side part indicates the entries for the step. So the step part once again consisting of two parts. One is called as the condition part and other one is the action part. So condition part is nothing but inputs and action part indicates the output. Now for the next date function you already studied in the previous chapter, right? So for the next date function, what are the three important things we have to consider? We have to consider the number of months, then number of days in a month and the year, because there they have specified the year range from 1812 to 2012. So if we are giving the date within that range, then it will display the next date, otherwise it will display the error message. So for the first month we are representing that one as three more conditions. Why? Because in month first we have to consider whether the month we consisting of 31 days or 30 days or the 28 days or the 29 days, right? So major we have three types. One is the month which is having or which consisting of 31 days, and the month which consisting of only 30 days, and the month which is consisting of 28 days. So for that we are defined three rules, R1, R2 and R3. If month in M1 is rule 1, okay, then other two rules are don't care. Why? Because that we are not considering. Similarly, for month in M2, if R2 is true and other conditions we are not considering. Similarly, for M3, if R3 is true or this rule is true, then other two rules we are not considering. Okay. This is over, right? So here, when we are constructing the decision table, by applying the simplistic algorithm to the decision table with mutually exclusive conditions, then the rule count is given. So for this, we have the rule count 4, and for this also rule count 4, and for this also rule count 4. Normally the rule count is calculated by considering the number of don't care conditions that we are representing in terms of powers of 2. So what are the for rule 1 how many don't care conditions are there? 2 don't care conditions are there that we are representing in terms of powers of 2. Then it is 2 power 2, it is equal to 4. Similarly, for R2 also it is 4 and R3 also it is 4. Rule count is 4, 4, 4. Next. This is over, right? No, this is over. So here we have only 8 rules. So clearly there will be a problem. To see where the problem lies, expand each of the 3 rules, replacing the dash entries with the true and false conditions which are represented here. So compare this table. So here in this table we have only true conditions. True 1, true for R2 and true for R3. Just 3 true conditions are there. But if we expand that, so what happens? Month in M1. So month in M1, January is there. How many are there? So here we are considering all 12 months. T indicates the month which consisting of 31 days, and next month in M2 it is consisting of 30 days, and month in M3 consisting of 28 days. So first we'll consider the first case, true, true, true. Is all 3 conditions are true? Not at all possible. Why? Because suppose let us consider that the condition C1 consisting of the month, where the month consisting of 31 days. If 31 days are there in already, that condition is satisfied, then the month in M to 30 months, 30 days in a month or 28 days month, it is impossible. Why? Because for the first case we have already considered, and hence the rule count is 1. Similarly for these two. So okay, these two are true. For this it is false. It is impossible. Right. So because the month M3 cannot consisting of 31 days. Similarly for the this one. True, false, true. So for the true, if the month consisting of 31 days, yes. Then F2, month is consisting of 30 days. If it is false, then what it indicates? It indicates that the month may consisting of 31 days, but it is not consisting of 30 days. That is, this rule says that. But it is, this rule says that month may consisting of 31 days, but it doesn't consisting of 30 days. But that is impossible. Why? Because if 31 days are there, obviously it indicates that the month also consisting of 30 days. Right? It is a impossible. That's why it is represented as output for these 3 types of inputs are impossible or not at all possible. Similarly, they have used it for the remaining conditions. For month M1, it is true, and M2, M3, it is false. Then it is, we are getting the output or the what we can say, the output that is not represented here. And then for this case, true, 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 it is not possible. That's why it is impossible case. And here it is true, true, F. So means for all the possible cases, or we are considering the Cartesian product of all possible cases, and for all the possible cases we are considering the input. And for some set of inputs it is not able to define, and those are treated as the impossible inputs. Okay. So here we have 3 rules in which the entries for the TR rules 1.1, 2.1 and 3.1. There are 2 rules with the TTF for entries 1.2 and 2.2. Similarly, rules 1.3 and 3.2 are identical. See here, by using the mutual exclusive conditions for impossible rules, we have constructed the decision table, where the decision table consisting of the conditions and the actions. Right. So first one is month in M1 true, one is true, other true, it is not possible, so it is impossible, like that. So like this is we already represented, right? So same thing here we are considering, but those are represented as the rules 1.1, 1.3, 1.3, 1.4, 2.3, like that, etc. Okay, so you see the inputs to all the conditions and see the output. Now let us consider the rule 1.1, 2.1 and 3.1. So here 2.1 and 3.1 are not represented. See, okay. Here, if you consider this is 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. Okay, next it is 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4. Then it is 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4. Okay, clear. So now we'll consider the 1.1. What are the inputs to that? C1 is T, C2 is T, C3 is T. Right. Yeah, this is 1.1 and then this is 2.1 T T T and the output rule count is 1 and the output is X. Now compare the first column with this. All the entries are same. With the you compare the column 1 with this column, all the entries are same, and instead of representing one extra column that we are reducing. Okay, similarly 1.1, 2.1, next we have the 3.1. This rule is called as the 3 point, rule number 3.1. You compare the 1.1, 2.1 and 3.1, all the entries are same, right? Here also it is T1 and the output is X. So all the entries and the output is also similar, then that can be reduced into the simple one rule, that is 1.1. Understood why here the mutually exclusive conditions consisting of very less number of rules? Because the rules which are redundant or which are repeated with the same values, those rules are merged into a single rule. So for 1.1, 2.1 and 3.1, all the entries in the table consisting of the same values for the rule 1.1, 2.1 and 3.1, hence we are considering only the 1.1. Similarly, the entries for 1.2 and 2.2. See here, this is the second column is 1.2 and here it is the 2.2. See the entries in the 1.2 and 2.2 column. It is true, true. Then next comes the false, false, and this is also true. And the output is 1 and the A1 output is impossible. Means for the case 1.2 and 2.2 we're having the same value. Similarly for the rules 1.3 and 3.2 they are also identical or they are same. Hence the rules 2.1, 3.1 and 2.2 and 3.2 and as well as 3.3 are eliminated. See here, we have 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. After that, 2.1 is not there, 2.2 is not there, but 2.3 is there because that is not matched with any of these four rules. Next, we have the 2.4 and it is not matched with any of the inputs or any of the entries. That's why it is that rule we are considering, but 3.1, 3.2, 3.3 it is not there, right? 3.1, 3.2, 3.3 is not there because all are similar to other rule set, and hence we are considering only the 3.4. For that we are representing it as true or false conditions with the rule count and what is the expected or obtained output. Okay, so this is about using the mutually exclusive conditions and reducing the number of rules. Next, the ability to complete the decision table puts in a powerful position with respect to redundancy and inconsistency. Here, this table is a redundant table and 3 conditions and 9 rule exist, but the entries in rule 9 are identical to the rules in 1 to 4. Okay, see here 1 to 4 rules, 1 to 4 and rules 9. If you compare the entries of these two, see here true, true, and F it is a false. Here also it is don't care is nothing but it is not considered. So it is nothing but a false output, right? Similarly, this one F, here it is don't care, but remaining things are same. For A1 it is X, for A2 it is don't care, and for A3 it is X. So here we are considering the redundant decision tables 1 to 4. So then when we are refining that, we are going to eliminate the redundant rules or redundant test cases. Next we have the consistent decision table. Here if the actions are different, then we will have the more problem, right? See here for 1 and 4, 5, 6. If C1 is false and C2 and C3 is true, then only one condition exists, right? If C1 is false, C2 and C3 are true, then A1, A3 condition are A1 and A3 actions occurs, right? But here A1 instead of A1 and A3, sorry, same is there, right? A1 and A2 is there. Next we have the table for 6, it is FTF. Here it is FTF. All three conditions exist. And for, see here, we'll just compare the action entries. For this one, we have the action entries XXX, don't care X, and for this it is don't care XXX, don't care, and the third one is X don't care and 5X's. But see here in the A3 row, what happens here? A3 X is there, don't care, XXX don't care. But here what happens? It is interchanged. X is there, don't care, and after that 4X's are there, right? But here only 3X's are there, then it is changed in the actions, right? Or the action entries are different, and such type of tables are said to be inconsistent decision tables. So when the tables are said to be inconsistent decision tables, yes, if the action entries are different, then we say that the decision table is said to be a inconsistent decision table. Understood? What is a inconsistent decision table? If the entries in the action are different, then we say that the decision table is a inconsistent decision table. Understood? See here, if the decision table were to process a transaction in which C1 is true and both C2 and C3 are false, but for rules 4 and 9 apply, we are applying 4 and 9, and here we will have the two observations. One is the rules 4 and 9 are inconsistent, and the other one is the decision table is non-deterministic table. Non-deterministic, you have studied in the ATC, right? Automata theory. What is the consistent, deterministic and non-deterministic? Deterministic means it is fixed. Non-deterministic, it is not fixed. It is changing again and again, right? So these observations are made. One is the rules 4 and 9 are inconsistent, and the decision table is non-deterministic. See here, rules 4 and 9 are inconsistent. Why? Because the actions are different. See here, for the rules 4 and 9, see, these rules are said to be here inconsistent rules. Why? Because actions are different. So for rules 1 to 4, action A1 and A3 is there, but for rule 9, only A2 exists. So such type of rules are said to be inconsistent. Next, the whole table is non-deterministic because there is no way to decide whether to apply the rule 4 or rule 9. See, you can compare the rule 4 and rule 9 for the conditions. Okay, it is T dash 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 indicates if you consider it as a false condition, then the rules 1 to 4 and 9 are same. Then the user in a confusion state or the tester will be in a confusion state which and he is not able to decide which rule to be applied in order to test the developed system, and hence we say that that whole table is a non-deterministic. And the bottom line for the tester is that care should be taken when don't care conditions are used in the decision table. This is very, very important. When don't care conditions are used in the decision table, then the testers should be very careful, and they must take the extra care in when the decision table consisting of the don't care entries. Okay. So this is about the decision table test cases for the triangle problem. Next, we'll see the test cases for the triangle problem in the next class. So today we have studied what is a decision table and how the decision table can be constructed and what are the entries in the decision table that you have studied, right? So in the next class, you are going to study some of other examples for decision table testing. Okay, in the next class,